think it's going to kick off here in a sec. I'll monitor the live stream.
Yeah, the meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
Oh, is it? Is that what it says?
It just says, yeah, here in Zoom.
I'm going to pull it over. Very good. I think it's going, right? Yeah, we are. All right. We are live. Very good. All right. And so can you tell me how to pronounce your last name again? I mess it up every single time. Is it Valladares?
Yeah, you can say Valladares.
I got it right. Okay, great. That's great.
Right. There it was, yeah.
Very good. All right. So let's get this kicked off. So welcome to Zero to Infinity, which is a show dedicated to those making their mark in business, inspiring those who are looking to start or scale their business and bring it to the next level. And so if you're on here on this live stream or watching this played back, you're invited to join us as we uncover their lessons, our guest lessons, their takeaways, and especially the turning points that got them to where they are today and how they're making it happen right now. So today I'm joined by Ernie Valladares, and he is the owner and founder of the Lucrative Youth, which is, I like to say, a full service recording studio based in Miami, Florida. You can correct me on that, Ernie. And currently he's working with some big names right now. And he's working with Him Marley, which is Bob Marley's grandson, reality star Jocelyn Hernandez, Cash Money Records, Maybach Music Group, and even Atlantic Records, just to name a few. And he describes himself as a music fanatic who is lucky enough to create a business out of something that he loves and is passionate about. And aside from running a studio, which I'm sure you work in and out a lot, he is personally managing artists, and he loves playing and watching soccer when he's not working in the studio. And just as a little housekeeping for anyone watching this live, please leave your comments and questions in the comment field below here, and we'll read those during the Q&A section a little bit further along the program. And so with that, welcome to the live stream. How's it going?
Doing great, man. Thank you, honestly, Nick, for this great opportunity to be here. Zero to Infinity. I love the name. I'm very excited to see this because this is the first episode. Am I right?
I know this first.
So,
if I told you the real story, you wouldn't believe. Yeah, I know. This is the very first episode, and hopefully we get one or two people join the live stream. But you know, I got inspired. I mean, let me back up for a second. How we met? We met because you reached out to the Babson Base program, right? Which is the Babson alumni with supporting entrepreneurs program. And I went to school there. You went to school there, and we got connected that way, which very, very cool that we did. And it's a great program. But you know, we jumped on a call, and I was sitting there, and you know, I didn't really know too much. I looked at your website and all this stuff, but when you were telling back your story about just in the past year of how you went from basically zero to where you are today, it was truly inspiring. And I was like, man, I wish I recorded this conversation. I wish I just, you know, had other people on this call, because truly you are just making it happen in the age of COVID, in the age of so much stuff going on. You're able to take a recording studio, a recording company, and bring it from nearly a place of what others would have thought impossible to where you are today, which, I mean, I'm not going to brag for you, but it's going places. You have a massive amount of attention now. You are well past six figures. I'm not going to hide it, but you're doing really, really well. And I just wanted to kind of just hear that story. And I'm sure other people do too. And hopefully this conversation is going to inspire people that are either starting their business, whether it's the music business or any business, or have an idea that's creative, or having, you know, an impetus to start something, and just getting out there and swinging the bat like you have. So I hope that's what people can take away from this conversation. And I hope that's what people can take away from the show. And so maybe you can kind of just, let's bring it back to that conversation that we had, and just kind of tell me how this all began, the inspiration for Lucrative Youth. Maybe we can just start with what it is, and we'll just go from there to see what happens.
So I think, yeah, just a real summary of what it is. We're a full service music company right now. Like you said, we have our headquarters in our recording studio in Miami, Florida right now, but we offer tons of different services such as, you know, video, music videos, photos, artist management and development, and we're even getting into the side of publishing. So ultimately it's like, we're really trying to enter this music industry and see how wide it really is and how many different angles can really be touched upon. When we talk about where it all really started, I'll take it back to, it was my junior year at Babson, or actually sophomore year at Babson. As you know, like that's like the critical year. Sorry about that. So it's like a critical year in any college student's, you know, life, because you realize like life's getting kind of real. Like you're past the freshman year where you come into Babson or any school and you're like, okay, yeah, you're freshman year. Now your sophomore year, you're starting to grow up a little bit. Now it's like junior year, you're seeing whether it's an internship, whether it's a job offer, like everything's getting a lot more real. You know, you're 2 years away from being in the quote unquote real world. when I came into Babson at the time, I was working on a venture that was in the automobile space and technology. It had absolutely nothing to do with music, absolutely a completely different sector. And I worked on that my first 2 years, worked even, with the Babson Blank Center, which is where we met. And that was like, super cool how how the base and everything just comes full circle.
Right.
But due to things in life, which I realized like, life is just life, I ended up stopping working on that venture my sophomore year summer. So it was like I first had in thought like, oh, this is what I'm working on for however long it may be. I planned on finishing college, working on that same venture. So when it kind of just like all kind of came to an end right before that summer, I was like, oh, this is like a critical moment for me. I have to now, I realized that my next step has to be the next step I really want to take. Because now I realize everybody around me, all my, my roommates, they're all getting internships at certain places. Like, all my friends, everybody's sort of, they're doing stuff that's solidifying what they're gonna do. I realized that it was gonna be one of the most important decisions that I ultimately make in terms of what I'm gonna be doing. At the time, I didn't. All I had was a name. It was just Lucrative Youth, which is now obviously the name of my company, what we really created. And it was nothing more than an idea. I liked the Lucrative Youth. When you think of the word lucrative, yes, you think of the profit, you think of something that just, that can be created and just generate value and just create something big. And then youth, I felt as though I was part of the youth. We're all part of the youth. It's ultimately something that, just a name, a word in my head that just came together. And I always just had it there. And I was like, you know what? So I'm going to create something with that eventually. Something with that eventually. I didn't know when, but that day, when it was now becoming into the summer and it was time to really choose, I realized, you know what? This is really what I'm going to start doing. I'm going to push forward. At the
Well,
beginning, all it was me, and I called my co-founder, now my partner, Adolfo, who at the time was a videographer. We had a conversation. I was just like, "Hey, you're shooting videos and you're taking pictures for a lot of cool, like, at the time it was only super local artists, like people who might not even know outside of a 20 mile radius, but it was people that we knew, and people, artists that at the end of the day, for me, I liked the music of it. So I thought it was super cool that my friend was working with these artists. But I
mhm.
also noticed that at the time it was like, yes, he was working with these artists, but there was I felt like there was a lot more that can be created. Like, I'm now sitting I was able to be with people who hung out with a whole bunch of different artists, a whole bunch of different, videographers, photographers, and just people that were ultimately in this industry, this space. And
Yep.
I thought I was looking at it as like, this is something that because I recognized, like I said, that my next move was gonna have to be the move that I really, really got into. Music was something I never, when I first started this, I never really thought of music as a business. I thought of it always.
That's the thing. You're not an engineer. You're not.
No, I'm
You're
not
not.
a. I have absolutely no. That's the thing. Like I love music because I grew up listening to music my entire life. I always like, it was always the number one passion. But
Right.
I never was a rapper. I never was a singer. I never was a producer. I never really did anything in terms of actually creating music. All I did was I had, friends that were videographers, friends that were artists, and it got to a point where just through like my own network, ultimately now I was able to have friends that were local artists and just like, and when I mean local, I mean as early level as, hey, I just made my first song last week, to as like, oh, I've performed at a couple bars, I have a couple like, of a following, like, there's a lot of levels in that local
Yeah.
thing. But then through that as well too, and even through like now family, friends, and just overall network, I now have people that are already established in the music industry, and they're now starting to enter into my network. So I
Yep.
see this here, I see this like, this group of creatives growing. I have my partner here with a video, and I said, hey, you know what? We're gonna start something where what we're gonna do is take your camera and just interview artists that we know. Artists as in people who were singers, rappers, people who painted, people who did, photography, videography, just people who we felt as though came into this market of ours, which was those independent artists, those creatives that were in that trying to just expand their craft and see what they needed to be offered. So we just started off and we're like, hey, we're going to create a series that's going to be interviews. We're going
Yep.
to come to these people, very something simple. You, me, a camera, sit down in front of us, and let's just have a conversation. The way how we're doing right now, that's how we started off. We wanted the people to ultimately meet these artists and go deeper than just a normal interview where
So,
you learn
so
about.
the first thought was just to get in front of people that you wanted to connect with, and be able
Mm.
to provide something of value to them, to sort of like get your foot in the door. I'm guessing, is that
Exactly, because
okay?
while we were getting our foot in the door through these interviews, we started to now meet more and more people. And as we met these people, not only did we meet them, but we learned what they needed,
Okay.
because that was a big thing. You know, a lot of, at the end of the day, you have to do market research for whatever venture you ultimately get into. And market research, sometimes it's easy for certain industries. You go on Google and you find out statistics and all that. But when what we were trying to build was really a community, a platform, something that can offer value to
Mhm.
certain to people who were creatives in the industry. The only way to really do that was to be there with them, to really speak with them, to really learn what it is that they needed, see what they were doing on a daily basis. And the way we did that was by through these interviews, through going to
Wow.
events, through trying to build out, while building our brand and our name, learn more about who at the end of the day was going to be our client,
Yeah.
what could we offer them.
Yeah. And so what was so you're going through this motion, and at some point you probably, all kinds of things were happening. At some point you said, I need to create something. I need to create a studio, a physical place. Am I jumping the gun here? Am I moving too far ahead? What, did I miss
Not
something?
at all.
Is that what happened?
So what it was, like you said, it was that summer 2018 where it all got official. When I said, okay, I'm now moving on from that last venture. I'm gonna go all in now. Here's Lucrative Youth. That's first summers when we picked up the camera, started recording, and then as we continued to, we just started with first, like we said, just the camera. Then we said, hey, you know what? Now that we see what we're doing, we're creating some more content. We start building our social media page as well too at the same time. While we start doing that, we start, there's a lot of artists that we know, and let's say, hey, let's try to expand. We start doing stuff such as sponsoring events. We sponsored 2 to 3 events with local artists that we already knew, to be able to get our name out there as well too, so that all the artists that were at the event, they would say, okay, what's this company? Like, oh, what's this brand? What are they doing? Oh, they have some cool content, some cool interviews, whatever it may be. The whole time while we're doing this and we're building up, what we're doing, like I said, is analyzing the market. And at the time, we realized right away that there's potential to create a one-stop shop that could really, really offer all these services that we know that these people are ultimately going everywhere to different locations to get, or like go running all around, that we know if we bring it in-house and put it under one roof, we'll
Yep.
be able to offer the experience to them that they need, while creating value through these services.
So let me ask you this: during that time when you're like thinking about creating a studio, a place where people could go and actually bring this to reality, what was going through your mind? What were you feeling at the time? Did you believe that it could work at that point, or did you have what were you feeling? What was the situation?
So it's funny because when before we even picked up the camera, like like I said, this was an idea I had in my head, like just the name, not like I knew where we were gonna go, but I didn't know how, I didn't know where or when. But before we knew everything that was going down, because my partner Adolfo, when I brought him and I said, hey, look, you know what, let's talk about this. Like, you know, they like, you know, your friend calls you like, hey, I have something just to talk to you about, see, to run your brain. We sat on the, and it's funny because we bring this up every like 6 months or every year, where we remember that day, like in like April 2018 or May, whatever it was, where we sat down on the pier in Dania and we spoke about absolutely everything that we've done. We haven't done it all yet, but we spoke about, you know, really getting into these events, creating content with these artists, releasing our music, getting our own location. Like we dreamt really, really big, and we still have a lot of those goals to that we still have to reach. But
Yeah.
we knew that all of this was coming. It just, all it took was us to continue working, continue going. And still, like we said, we have a lot of goals to reach, but it's just awesome because we bring up this conversation every, like, you know, like 6 8 months to a year, and we're like, you know, we said that was gonna happen. Like when we do it, when we sit there, like we said, when we first moved to the studio, it's like it's all so surreal, but it's like we said we're gonna do this, so we just did it. It's like, it's for us, we laugh about it because it's like
Yeah.
the beauty of it. It's like the beauty of it, and when you know that you're really just enjoying it. Like, we're not, it's not anything that's just being done out of like strictly looking for monetary gain or anything like that. It's just like we had this vision, and now we're blessed enough to the point to where as we work harder and harder every day, all we get is closer and closer to our goals.
Right. And now I'm gonna circle back a little later and kind of pull out specifically what is working, what you've learned along the way. But I want to take it back a little bit to the story that you were telling me about how when you were starting your studio at the start of COVID, you ran into a lot of issues
Mm-hmm.
business wise and things like that. But a lot of people, this is part of the story. This is part of why we're talking, is because a lot of people would have just given up, at what you faced. And I want you to go into that. But a lot of people have just said, let's just pack it up. Let's just, whatever, I'll get a job. But that didn't happen with you. And, tell us about that. Tell us that story and why you just persevered through all that.
I'm gonna bring it back to before COVID because there was
Okay.
a step back that a lot of people would have just stopped at even right before COVID. That I
Okay.
think is we can't overlook it. So
Sure.
as we said, we started in June 2018 was when it was like, well, that's when I formed the LLC. So that's how I really see it as like the on paper date of okay, things got official. On that date, I said, this is what I'm doing. There's no talk more about an internship. There's no more talk about anything else. Like I'm not interested in absolutely anything. I'm tunnel vision on this, and that's how we're gonna move. But a year after that, after like then we grew by growing our name, starting with the events, everything I just ran you through, we moved into our first studio. So right now I have the studio that we're operating out of. That's the second studio that we've moved into. The
Mhm.
first studio I moved into in the summer 2019, and after months of hassles, jumping through ropes, and like a lot of city bureaucratics and politics, at the end of the day, I was told that I couldn't operate my business where I was at. After being told, that it was fine, that I could, you need a business license to be able to operate a recording studio. And it's really was a lot of stuff like zoning, real estate, a lot of stuff that at the end of the day is just somebody signing off on a piece of paper if we're gonna really be straightforward with it. But I was there for 4 months in that warehouse every month continuously, had overhead costs, every month waiting on somebody to come sign a permit, every month waiting to then just be told, hey, no. And at that point, there was nothing I can do. Like like we were there and we're like, how could they do this? It was like we're just like, we're really just trying to start small business owners, trying to do our own thing. Like there's no, it's every dollar that we've put into this capital has been like barely scraped by us, just piecing stuff together to make it happen. But then we have something just sort of come in and just tell us no. And unfortunately, there's nothing you can do in that moment. We don't have the money to go litigation, to go do all this. Like it's just not, it doesn't make sense for us. So
Mhm.
we had to pull everything out, complete loss, had 4 months but invested into location, and ultimately now be up in there like, what are we gonna do? At this point, like it could have been easy to kind of just, like you said, give up and say, you know what, hey, it didn't work out. We tried. But at that point, it was when we were just getting more and more traction because even though we didn't build out our studio yet at the other warehouse, I had a lot of like those clients come check out the location, come see have an understanding of what we're doing here, come interact with us. We had a ping pong table in there, and as smaller, like it's an empty warehouse with a ping pong table, nothing else besides a ping pong table and a little room. I'd have my clients just playing ping pong, I was taking like some pictures, taking some videos, like little stuff to just build relationship, build rapport with these people and have an understanding, because we were never just trying to build something where we offer you a service. We were building a community. We were building people to come work together. We were building, where everybody, artists, producers, creatives, anybody could just come and really like create together.
Mhm.
So at that point, it was tough on us because after 4 months in the location, we're like, okay, what are we gonna do? I had people every day literally texting me, is it open yet? Are you ready? Can I book? Like, or when is it gonna be open? But we're waiting, we're waiting, we're waiting. We realized that nothing was gonna stop us at that point.
Well,
That's
hold
the
on for a second. This is a good little point here. You had built up some juice essentially from all the work that you did before, just all that like sort of the guerrilla style where you just let's get out there, let's just swing the bat, let's just put a camera in front of these people, interview them, talk to them, build their network. And you're not even basically up and running a business, and you're getting calls every single day. That's not a bad problem to have for a business
yeah.
starting out.
No, it was that was my proof that I needed this. Like that was what was telling me, like, hey, like, yes, I don't. That was the validation. I had people who were ready to pay for a service that I didn't have yet, but I knew if I created that, I would already have sales, just organically based on how we were getting it. So immediately, of course, it was a setback. We were bummed out. We thought it was, the world against us, the city, blah blah blah. But we realized that the only thing you could do is just continue going at the end of the day.
Mhm.
So immediately within within a couple of days of moving out from that location and closing up everything, we were on the hunt for a new location. On a new location when we had to find a new spot that we could continue with what we wanted to do, continue building the studio, continue building everything. And that's here where we're going to get into now, this whole COVID situation you spoke about.
Because let's dive in.
Yeah, so it was December of 2019, which was a couple months before COVID, when we found our new studio. So we just got out of the other one, and now this is my new and current studio. We move in December. We're obviously super happy, like, you know, we're excited. We're in the process of building it. Had to completely build our booth, redo the floors, paint the walls, the whole 9 yards to really, you know, ultimately create a location. That took months and months and months of waiting and everything. When I learned that through all these projects and stuff like that, like everything always takes longer than expected, no matter what. There's no other way around it. Like, it's just the reality of it, because just things pop up that you could have never expected. And it's just how you deal with it and continue to adapt and move forward. So after all of this, like we said, we just had the other warehouse issue. We finally moved into this one. My plan was to open the studio in spring break 2020. So let's say hypothetically spring break is on this Friday. Okay. On Monday, everybody's starting to get a little worried about Corona. Tuesday, everybody's like, okay, this kind of might be serious. This is not like a joke, or, you know, because first everybody's like, yeah, somebody, you know, that's not going to come over here. It doesn't really matter. Tuesday, everybody's like, oh, okay, hold on. It might actually happen. Then Wednesday, mind you, Friday, I'm on a flight to Miami where I'm supposed to open up the studio, you know, because everything's finally construction, everything's done. It's going to be a grand opening. Let's have a party, everything. On Wednesday, we received the call from our college, Babson, saying everybody has 48 hours to vacate the premises. The semester is now online. And from there, the entire world just went into COVID mode. So it was like, on my end personally, I was like, whoa, like I was about to open up finally my studio. I finally, like, you know, went through everything at the other warehouse. I got through, you know, building and everything here. And now I finally have this location that I've been working so hard for, that I can't do anything, because at the end of the day, we lived through this. You know, it's a pandemic, especially in March when it first started. Everybody has no idea what's going on. There's so much uncertainty. You don't know, you know, it was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of like, what are we going to do next? You know, at that moment, it was, like you said, yeah, at that moment, it was it was crazy. It was very easy to say, you know, well, okay, that's it. Like, I can't really do anything now. Like, this is not, now the world is stopping me. You know, it's not even letting me, even if I have what I needed, because what I needed first was, at the other time, was the studio, having a location where I could offer these services. Now I have it, it's built and everything, but now I can't even offer it, because now we're in the middle of something that nobody even knows what's going on. So for first month, now we're here in the situation where first month we're just like, we can't really do anything. You know, it's like, oh, we're it sucks, because we were so close and so ready to like finally get to what we wanted to, but you know, the city's shutting down. The cases are getting up worse. People don't know what's going on. At the end of the day, you know, health is the most important thing as well too. Like, we're not trying to put our own families at risk. Like, I'm not trying to put myself at risk. So, you know, it was just a lot up in the air. We at the time realized that in order to just, at that moment, we had to adapt, because it was the only thing that was gonna allow us to survive. You know, we had to be able to adapt to the reality of the situation. And just as how right now we're on Zoom and recording a video chat where you're in Boston, I'm in Miami. We utilize Zoom to create content, because at the core, we recognize that my company is not a recording studio. At the end of the day, I'm building a platform for all these creatives to be able to come work. We have various services. Yes, in this exact moment, my recording studio it's the core of it, because it's where I can bring all my clients. It's where I have services that can be offered directly. And you know, it's a perfect hub where we can continue to work on all of the things there. But at the end of the day, the recording studio in of itself is not my business. I had to take a step back and recognize that in order for my business to continue to thrive in the situation, while I could do nothing at the recording studio, I had to touch other things, such as the social media, such as, you know, what we got into, like we said, on the Zoom. We took advantage of Zoom and started doing stuff. There was interviews with local artists, with producers that would produce over Zoom, and we would record it, share it to our social media. We would have, like, you know, just interviews with people who we knew were artists around, and just really just adapting at the time. While yes, at the whole time, we're kind of, you know, we're up in the air because we realize how much this sucks that we can't get people into the studio. But again, we just kept it going, and recognized
Just
that
building up that network, building up that,
building up, adapting,
that
yeah,
platform.
building out our, our pool of people that we know the day of tomorrow. Once we can finally open up and get into the studio, those will be people. Those are already leads that will probably be turned into sales.
This is a big takeaway, and I can speak from experience about this and other people that I know about, especially the creative field, but even just entrepreneurs in general, business people that are starting businesses. We tend to like focus so much working in our business. We don't have a way to kind of sit back and look at the stuff that's going on because we're burning so much time doing the work itself, and we're not thinking about delegating. We're not thinking about hiring. I mean, obviously, sometimes you don't have enough money to hire, but I mean, even from the beginning, you kind of had a sense that, you know what, I need to put the pieces together and get people in the room to build this. It wasn't you saying, you know what, I'm going to shut everyone else out and just do it myself. This is really, I think I imagine that was part of a big reason why you've been able to accelerate, is by having people come together that were experts in their field. They were just driving, staying in their lane, and you were there managing all of this. And not to just toot your horn a little bit, you're humble, but you've grown this business to where it is in just over a year, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we really sit down and talk about it, yeah, because or not even less, to be honest, because
Okay.
we were supposed to open up March, like in terms of like really like the core of it, because it's all been just sort of fueling like this entire business in the background of it. But due to obviously the pandemic and just so much uncertainty, it wasn't until the last day of June that we officially took our first client in the recording studio. So it's really been at the point, yeah, 5-6 months of like full on studio operation. Everything was just kind of in the other end was just really just taking it hard and just trying to keep going however we could to survive and like scraping by.
What were some of the things, if you look back now during that period of growth, well, you're still growing. What were some of the things that you could just tell people watching this? What were some of the things that you wish you had done differently, or wish you had, I don't know, that's a great place to start. What would you have done differently, if anything at all, or maybe modified a little bit in your approach? Would love to hear any insight about that.
I'll think of something that I would do different, but if I'm being completely honest,
Yeah.
I'd probably say nothing because I've learned so much on the way. Like
Yeah.
we're really kind of just scraping the surface on a lot of the things that I've really been through and gone through to get us to really where we are right now. There's been some times where like, it could be like, yes, I may have if I moved a little bit more lean towards this way a little bit more than that way, it could have worked out better, quote unquote. But even like, maybe I stayed in my other warehouse if it wasn't for, trying to go to the city and apply for a permit. Maybe I was in there, but at the end of the day, every single situation and every single decision that we went through and we made got us to where we are today. And I'm so happy and proud of where we are right now that I think every moment really had to play out the way it did. Even the setbacks and the losses, because at this point there was been so many more of those to look at it from a big picture. But it's like they build us from every single angle, and they've allowed us to. But if I'm gonna say of stuff maybe that I would say to do a little bit that I change, maybe get a little bit better, I'd say finding a way to maybe manage certain tasks and certain things like in a more organized, because like you said, at this point I've done everything. Like I can't say, like, if you were to ask me, like, for the most part, everybody, you have a certain title, you have a certain a job, a role, or whatever it may be within an organization, within a company. Like, I do absolutely everything. Not to, like I said, to my horn or whatever it may be, but it's just the reality of it. Like, I find myself one day touching this side while the other side all the way over here. So it's like, I have to do it at the end of the day. Like, that's the real reality of where we're at. And that's why it happens like that. But I think if there was a way to be able to sometimes, like, just manage that a little bit better and kind of like control, because it's hard when you're really at the end of the day all over the place. I think that would definitely be something that I'd work on at the end of the day.
For sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And while you were during this journey from where you started to where you began now, were there any realizations or things that you had in your mind that you thought were one way and they turned out to be differently, that were a part of your growth during this time?
I'm trying to think. What do you mean by that exactly?
Meaning sometimes when you I don't know, when you take on a new job or a new client or something like that, you learn something about yourself that um, it's kind of a life lesson or a business lesson built into that. That you're like, man, this is great. I didn't really realize that this is the way it worked before. You know, like for
That
me, go ahead, go ahead.
no. Say for you because it'd be
Yeah,
perfect.
you know, when you're starting off, you know, the things that clients value are different than sometimes what you think they value. You know, a lot, you know, in my business, it's all about the business result ultimately. And you know, in my field, it's easy to get kind of stuck in the gear, stuck in the look and all
Yeah,
that stuff, getting nerdy about it. But
you got it right
that was
there.
a big transition for me, you know.
No,
So
you got it right there, and I think that's definitely a big one that I think is like really opened my eyes recently. So recently, like I'm very happy with my studio setup. I have a great studio setup. I'll go toe to toe with absolutely any studio in Miami, and you were here on live, so I'll say it in terms of creating quality, in terms of giving everything. However, at the same exact time, I can also sit here and be humble and have an understanding of the monetary of my equipment and of just everything at my studio is actually pennies compared to some of these $1 million studios, $5 million studios that are around me. And that at the end of the day, we now sit down here and not directly, but we kind of compete with. And I think that's kind of
I think you're being humble. We're gonna get into this, but you're telling me that it's okay. You can dish it out here, but you have people showing up and people are telling people the social proof is growing. And it's not because you guys are just there. It's because you guys are doing great work. You're providing a great service. You're getting it done, and the word is getting out. Right? Is that?
Yeah, it's also beyond that. It's the fact to where I'm now I sit in the room and I'm blessed to the fact where I compete with those top end multi-million-dollar studios without even directly competing. I have clients that go to those studios and record at those studios, and at the same exact time, they come to my studio and they love the experience that we offer them. They come back and they continue to book in my studio. And even though, like I said, like my setup, it's not a a home setup. It's a professional studio. Like I said, we can compete on sound with any studio no matter what, but in terms of just monetarily wise, we're sitting at a much more humble position because we're still in our starting stages at the end of the day. Like, we view this as my first year, but even at the level that we're at, I still give the experience that surpasses a multi-million-dollar studio. And to me, that has just always been like, it's a great feeling to know that that's the position that I'm in right now.
And you're not a little pop-up shop studio by any means. Talk about the people you have on rotation, your engineers, all that stuff, your process, your work
So
there that you have set up there. Because I want to get that point across. You're not still stuck in a basement. You guys are.
oh no,
You guys are. Yeah. So
I just say, cause just to just to say, because the reality of it is there's a lot of these studios that have been there for 50 years. Like, they have their iconic, there's songs that we listen to all the time, and now at the same exact time here in my studio, what we're doing, we create the environment and the setup to where somebody who's used to walking into places that are surrounded by Grammys and used to all of this, can still be at that level and feel as though we're giving them what they really need. The part that you spoke about, for example, the engineers, which I think is a big one for those who don't, really have an understanding of what a recording studio and like who the key people are, is I offer ultimately the location, and I now have a bunch of engineers who are, I've worked with over 40, 50 engineers at this point, which the recording engineers, what they do ultimately, they record the vocals for my clients, or they mix them as well too, and whatever it may be. Our current group of engineers are all top 10 Billboard trained. They work like, some of them have actually gold plaques, and a lot of them have worked with various top end clients. So now that ensures that the quality that's coming out of my studio is up to par and can compete with absolutely everybody. The engineer is it's something that because like I said, I don't have absolutely any music background. I don't know it. I've had to, because like I said, I do absolutely everything at some point. I've engineered some sessions. I've recorded some sessions for some clients when it's come down to and having to. But in terms of me having a background or me being somebody who can really sit down and do this, that's not the reality of it. So I see what I do is, and I find I now have the pool of engineers, all the, now I know through this, the only way to really do this is by doing. You really learn, because a lot of people, yeah, you can have the thing about this is that you can have your resume, you know, that's all everybody's like, oh yeah, you have your resume, you worked or whatever, blah blah. But at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter in this. It could be somebody who just started last week and he has a vibe and he's able, obviously you have to be able to do the work. At the end of the day, the work is going to speak for itself, but it's so much about, goes further beyond than just knowing how to press buttons on a computer and being able to, like, you know, do the vocals. We have to be a person who, you know, I want the client to be able to talk to you. I want the client to be able to feel as though they're comfortable with you and to be able to really, really just get into that experience of the things. Because at the end of the day, the reality, yes, there's those studios that are $10 million. There's a studio such as mine, and there's even people that are at home recording in the closet. All
Right.
three are fine if you really, really talk about it. This new age and the way how the music industry and the entire world is flipping is, it's showing that a lot can be done with less. So that's why, with that being known, you have to be able to offer the experience and just the overall value from other little angles.
Yeah, and then just hearing your speak, and I just keep thinking back to some of the other stuff that we talked about that I found really impressive about where you are and where things are going. Um, let's touch upon right now how busy you guys are, even in the age where businesses, studios, all kinds of stuff is closing, right? We hear all kinds of, you know, these doom and gloom stories, but the truth of the matter is you're, especially for a studio, I mean, you don't think of a studio as one of those businesses that are able to thrive and prosper and things like that. So that speaks really to this process, this philosophy that you have going into this, and just really connecting the dots, connecting the right people, and making it happen. And you guys have been very busy, right? You guys are
So yeah,
constantly booked.
we told, like I told you, it was the last day of June when we had our first booking, and every month since then it's been constantly growing. You know, like obviously the first month it was not many bookings, a couple bookings, whatever it may be, but every single month we continue to grow, we continue to grow, we continue to grow, like building out our client base, building out like just everything, just slowly, slowly, slowly growing. Now over the last couple months we've had great growth, and we're really blessed to the point to where now I don't only have one room in my studio now I have two rooms in my studio, and we're pretty much we're at the point where every single day we have both of our rooms booked.
Yeah, and you built out a new room because you were so booked with the first room,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So
Yeah,
you
it
basically
had enough. It had enough to where we needed, like that's the level where we're getting to right now, you know, and it gets to
right.
the point where we're booked all day pretty much, and it's a blessing, honestly. It's great to
I
be
mean,
able to be in
yeah,
this position.
you guys are booked basically every day, all day. You're using two studios. You basically doubled operations, and you've been able to scale up. And this does not come from sitting at your desk, working day in, day out, trying to make it work. It's really pulling back for a moment and figuring out what pieces can you put together to make this happen and serve the people. And this really started from the traffic source, which is going out there and finding, creating a vibe, creating sort of the vibe, the sauce that's kind of happening in the background here, and the words getting out, and people are coming to you at this point.
Exactly. Yeah, that's that, because that's always been the core. Was like, as we always said, like we were never just a recording studio. You know, like people could come in one day, spend the whole day with us, have, of course, their songs recorded because we have our recording studio, but you could also have your merchandise designed and potentially, you know, on the way to be printed. Then you could also have your cover art photo shot, maybe not in the studio, but maybe we take a step over to another location that fits for that.
Yeah.
And to wrap that all up as well too, we could even record the music video for you. So it's like we try to, that's really how we pull these clients in and then show them that it's not just the one service we're giving you. Like we want to be able to create more value for you, because at the end of the day we see the market and we know that there's some clients that are coming in on label budgets, that are coming in on where it doesn't, where in reality it's crazy to talk about it like that, but it's like, okay, the monetary side of things isn't where they're so focused on. But the other side, which is a huge market that we want to get into, is that we have all these artists that are just starting off. These artists that we want to be able to offer them that complete package. These artists that maybe, you know, there's times where we know that artists may not have the budget to necessarily do a full music video and record studio time, but it's somebody that we know if we work with them right now and we take more of, like, you know, sort of an involved approach, even like even an invested approach in terms of where even we'll waive studio time fees to us, because we understand that it's an artist that we can create with. It's an artist that the day of tomorrow, you know, even though today they're not necessarily at the level where we know, through the potential that we can see in them, if we invest into them through our services, invest in them through the things that we know we can create value, the day of tomorrow, it may be able to be a return on investment for us.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I just want to say, for anyone watching this, you guys are more than welcome. We're monitoring the comments and all that stuff. Please leave your comments or questions in the Facebook comment area below this feed if you're there, and we can ask this during the Q&A section. And so I have a few questions here that I just want to kind of just get across here. What is the, so maybe you can just kind of lay out the importance. Well, we kind of covered it, but I really want to hammer this home about the idea of, you know, building that social network or building that connections, building those connections with people organically. I mean, you're not doing this at all with any kind of paid advertising or anything like that. You're getting out there at first and you were just figuring out what people would be magnetized to, and then placing that content and connecting those dots. Maybe can you dive into that strategy just a little bit in a nutshell, just so people kind of really understand the strategy? Because I think a lot of people are, you know, a lot of people are afraid to put themselves out there on social media. I know I am a lot of the times, of course. And so can you kind of speak to that and how that's been sort of a pivotal part of your growth, even at the beginning?
Yeah, definitely no. So since the beginning of this, we've never put any money yet. I say yet because obviously the day of tomorrow we really fully grow and it's inevitable. But today we haven't put any money into paid advertising. Anytime. Every single client, every single, you know, follower in our Instagram, every single person who's part of our community and what we're building has all been 100% organic, 100% word of mouth, and just really just through us maneuvering and building out. You know, it's as easy as when we started off and we go to events and people would be like, oh, what shirt? Okay, hey, this shirt's cool. Like, oh, this logo. Like, and they see this logo and then they're like, okay, what is that? You know, like, hey, that's cool. What is that? But they don't know anything about it. We were just getting into their head, you know, just kind of getting it into their head, like, oh, okay, these are some people that this is pretty cool. What is Lucrative Youth? How can we really get at them? How can we really do that?
Yeah, that's very good. And then when you're working with the full spectrum of your clients and things like that, do you, from what it sounds like, you don't treat the people that are just coming in with a limited budget versus those big studios like Atlantic Records or Maybach or Cash Money, all those guys that are coming into your studio, you treat them pretty much all the same. And because you speak to that, because I'm sure you know that at any level you're going to see these people as you're on the way up. You might see them on another direction on the way down. You know,
that's a big thing for us, because at the end of the day, we have, like, you know, I've worked with all level of clients. Like you said, like I've had clients that just started making music. Like they come in and this is their first time ever in the studio. Like they've never been to a recording studio. They've never recorded any music and they just want to try us out. So it's kind of like a hobby to them. They're like, oh, hey, yeah, you know what? I'll try it out. And at the same time, I have Grammy award winning, multi-platinum, like, you know, legends that take this as a career. Like these people that have made their entire lives off of music. And that's very two different clients in terms of what they've outputted. But in terms of how our approach is and experience we give them, we make sure that every single person who at the end of the day walks through our doors has the ability to feel like they are that Grammy award winning artist already. Because to us, it's being humble is such a key, and it's too important in this because it's an industry filled with a lot of arrogant people and a lot of just, it's a facade. It's sad and it's just the reality of it, but we allow ourselves, and I think that's really a big core of why we continue to have the success that we do. It's because even these people that come in and like the same people I said, like those Grammy Awards, superstars, whatever, we don't treat them as such. To us, they're the same. They're just, you know, we treat them great because we treat the same person who just started off great, but it's never on a matter of, oh, like, you know, wow, I can't believe this. Like, no, they're at the end of the day, they're regular people. The people who want to come work and create, and they recognize that energy from us, and that's the experience that they're gonna get. And it's what brings them back over and over every time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know, as we're winding down this conversation, I really want to get from you any lessons or any takeaways or anything you've learned that you can impart on people watching this that maybe just starting their business or looking at their business where they are today and they want to scale it or bring it to a new level. What kinds of things can you share with them that you've experienced that you can impart and share with them?
I'd say at the end of the day, the most important thing that you can do is really keep going when you know that you believe in something and it's what you want to do. I've been, like I said, working on this now, this project, this company for 3 years. And if you ask me, I'll tell you I haven't worked a day in my life. Like I've been through some pretty buck wild situations where most people would not be able to come back from, like you said, like, and not just one, not just two, like we could really sit here and really, really talk about that if it came down to. But at the end of the day, the reality is you just can't be afraid to change the narrative. You know, like everybody's gonna be doing something, and like it's a highly competitive industry, and that's everything though. It's not just music that I'm speaking about. It's really just the world and anything that people get into. If you get caught up in what the other's doing, like and you try to compare your own journey with somebody else's, you're always gonna end up a step behind. Because whatever I've gone through, whatever you've gone through, whatever anybody's gone through, that's their journey. That's their story. And as long as you sit down there and you know that you're gonna get to where you're gonna get to, I promise that nothing will be able to really set you back. That's how that's what I live by every single day. We wake up and it's crazy because like you said, we built it in such short of a time. And it's like I still to this day I don't even get really like that moment to really kind of like take a step back and really realize like, oh wow, we're really here. Because I'm just still so tunnel visioned in and I have an understanding of where my goal is and I know that I'm not there yet. So it's like I know that that's what's keeping me where I am right now. It's not what anybody else, there's no validation that anybody can give me that won't push me more because it's already there through me.
Wow. And you're 22 right now?
Yeah.
Holy cow. Yeah. Fantastic. This has been amazing. And just sort of tie everything together. What's the future looking like for Lucrative Youth? What are your plans? Where are you guys going to take this?
So I think if that's a great question because we really like I told you like I told you when we were on back to that pier, me and Adolfo that first day, like we know where we're going, we know where we're on the way to, and we're just keep on doing it, keep on really getting into it. But to really, really sum it up, I think where Lucrative Youth is going is we're really gonna make a huge positive change in this industry. Like our whole thing has always been creating value for people. Throughout the years, we've broken our backs for so many people to do good by them because that's just who we are and that's why we continue to be in the position that we are. But it's been more on like a humble level to a certain extent to where because our platform isn't at the level where it will be the day of tomorrow. But our goal won't change. We know that once we continue to elevate it, once we continue to this company continues to grow, we'll then now be able to offer that value and just change a lot of people's lives if we're really being honest in the best way possible because we're now seeing like we want to make a change in this industry and we want to be able to be really, really pivotal in that change that I believe is coming.
Wow, that's really well put. And that sounds like a whole other episode potentially to have you come back and talk all about that philosophy and where that's going. And honestly, I this has been a fascinating conversation, truly insightful. And I hope a lot of people watching this are going to, pull a lot of stuff out of this and really impact their own business and their own lives with it. And I just want to say thank you. And where can people connect with you? What's the best way to, interact with you? Ask you, are you open to people asking questions?
Yeah, no, definitely. If you guys can first check out our page on Instagram at the Lucrative Youth. That's where you'll see like all our content from the studio down to like just videos. And for the most part, we're continuing to. You'll see over the next couple months, we continue to expand and grow that because we realize like the importance as well of that platform. But through me, you could also find me on Instagram, Ernie V_. Reach out. Anybody have any question has anything to do? Obviously, I personally in the music industry, but I analyze it just as really as I do every other thing, and it's the matter of just that keep going mentality and just trying to continue working and get a little bit better than we were today.
Man, that is really well put. I think it's a great place to end. And yeah, I just want to say thank you to Ernie and to anyone watching. I hope you guys got a lot out of this, and we'll leave it right there. And I just want to say thank you and hope sometime you'll have the time to come back on, and we're all super excited to see where you're going to take this. You're going to take it to the next level. I can only imagine where this is going to go. So thanks so much, Ernie.
thank you, Nick. Shout out to, you know, Zero to Infinity. It's super awesome. Like I'm honored to be a part of this. Like, thank you very much for real for setting this up. I'm super excited to see where you take this. And again, you know, thank you for everything, man.
Awesome. We're gonna keep tabs on your growth, and we're gonna see this. We're gonna see it go.
Everybody, you know, follow us at the Lucrative Youth and just stay tuned for what's coming.
Yeah, stay on for a second.
Yeah.